Good old Las Vegas. I love this city. I spent 5 great years here, and it is one of my favorite cities, and it always will be. I love the lights, the sounds, the atmosphere. It's amazing. And this city helped foster my love of probability. I mean, I love this city so much. I got this sign tattooed on my arm. That's how much this place means to me. But I also loved all the gambling. And not because I like to gamble, because I loved watching people gamble. I love watching people win and the look on their faces. And it was kind of interesting to see people lose. I think what fascinates me most about gambling, though, is how many different ways you can win or lose your money. Like, you bet on your lucky number. So I would bet red 19 every time I played roulette, and it never hit, like ever. It was so frustrating. Now, my friends and I, we would go play roulette about every other Sunday. That was our tradition. And I started watching and realizing that you need to bet in between numbers or on the corners or the thirds or even the colors. And yeah, you may not win quite as much at one time, but you're going to win more over time. So my dad was the one to teach me about blackjack, and I'm so glad that he did. He used to come down about once a month. He said to visit me, but I think it was so he could play some more blackjack. But I was totally okay with that because he'd always give me a couple $100 so that we could play together after I turned 21. And those are my favorite memories of him. After I got the hang of blackjack, I realized I really liked the game. I liked him more than roulette. I felt like I could control my odds a little bit better. And so I wanted to become a blackjack dealer. I mean, as well as being a teacher. I thought it'd be awesome to do both. And that was my life goal right there. So one time, my dad sits down at a blackjack table, pulls $100 out of his wallet, and says that's all he's going to play with. He sits at that table for 8 hours straight, goes up and down a couple times, ends up leaving the table with the same amount of money that he started with. After 8 hours. How could that happen? How could he play for 8 hours and walk away with the same money he started with? It just baffles me. And I had to know, who started this? Who thought this was a good idea and that they needed to look into it more? Well, now I need to look into it more. So I'm going to dig into the history of probability. So how long has probability been around? Well, the word probability probably hasn't been around that long, but the idea of probability has been around since the ancient days. It could be found in fortune telling, tarot cards, certain games, and even law and insurance. One of the cool things I learned while doing this was that it wasn't really Pascal and Fermat that came up with probability. There was a guy about 100 years before them named Cardano who actually came up with the idea of probability. But his works were lost and they weren't published until a century later, and by then the letters had already been sent and everybody gave credit to Pascal and Fermat. So Cardano was an Italian professor of mathematics and medicine, and he also gambled a lot, like every day. And his thought was that if he wasn't going to win money, then he could be doing something more worthwhile, such as learning. So he decided to look into ways that he could win more money. So he investigated the chances of pulling aces out of a deck of cards and also rolling sevens with 2 dice. And not only just sevens, but he was the first to realize that you had the same chance to roll a 1, 3, or 5 as you would to roll a 2, 4, or 6. And then people could bet accordingly if the dice were fair. And if the dice weren't fair, then they needed to move their bets to accommodate for that. Cardano also figured out that he should count the number of successes and compare them to the total number of cases. And he also wanted to assign a number from 0 to 1 to the probability of an outcome, which, hello, that's what probability is. So this poor guy got screwed out of his credit, all because everything was lost and it didn't get published until centuries later. If you want to know more about where probability came from and all the other fun stuff about probability, go check out my website. I'll have everything there for you.